Good morning, everyone. This is the 2020 Test Security Ethics and Administration Training that is required for all staff members who are administering the state assessments to their students this spring. Let's get started with test preparation practices. The first thing that you'll want to do is carefully read sections 3 through 6 in the 2020 Examiner's Manual. Also, make sure that you're providing students with the opportunity to learn the content and vocabulary included on the test. Use state and district curriculum standards as a resource for instruction. Integrating the teaching of test-taking skills within regular classroom instruction and assessment is also important. Interim assessment data can be used to inform instruction. It's not required. One can set up and administer these assessments through the KITE Educator portal. And there are also directions for creating and administering interim assessments at this link that will help you get started. Ensure that all accommodations being provided to a student on the state assessment are done regularly on all instructional assignments, as well as classroom, district, and standardized assessments. Assure that students are also exposed to the KITE technology practice for students and practice tests. Students can access these through the student KITE portal. Testing accommodations. Accommodations are tools and procedures in the areas of presentation, response, setting, and time scheduling that provide equitable access during instruction and assessment for all students. For a child to receive an accommodation on any state assessment, it must be documented or coded in their IEP and in the test type accommodation sheet, which is located in your building Google Sheet. The accommodations must be provided on a regular basis throughout the school year. If they are not, they cannot be provided on the state assessment. Test type accommodations Google Sheet. Grade level or content area teachers have completed this task in the Google Sheet under the test type accommodation tab. For all students that will receive special accommodations and for those taking a different test type, such as the DLM. This is an example of the tab where teachers go to and can enter the accommodations for each student. This task should have been completed already. If any new students, though, do need to be added, this is where that information would be coded. If a student has been coded for accommodations, this is the form that was submitted and must be done before testing begins. If a child is coded for text-to-speech or text-to-speech ELA, the form at the right and requested documentation must also be completed and submitted to your building test coordinator before testing begins. Revisions can be made to the test type accommodation sheet under the TT Accom tab if changes are made to the child's IEP plan before testing administration begins. If updates are made, you must inform me or so I know that those changes need to be made in the KITE portal as well. PNP protocol. DLM assessments. This SPED teacher will enter those PNP information codes, and I will be entering those for the general assessments over spring break. Again, if any additional accommodations need to be made, please contact me so I can make sure to get those entered into the KITE portal. Inappropriate use of accommodations. Reading to students any text in the reading ELA passage on the ELA test is prohibited. Violations will result in the student being counted as not tested. Use of a calculator on the non-calculator portion of the math assessment is also prohibited. This applies to all students, including 504 and SPED IEP students. If a student uses a calculator on the non-calculator portion of the assessment, the test will be invalid and the student will be counted as not tested. Use of teacher-generated or student-generated journals, notes, logs, etc. is prohibited on the ELA math and science assessments. Use of commercially made, teacher-made, or teacher-generated graphic organizers is also prohibited. Acceptable test practices. These are available to all students. They are not considered accommodations and are not documented in a child's IEP. If a student raises their hand, a teacher may pronounce a single word, a single distractor, or a single question that appears on the assessment. With the exception, a teacher cannot pronounce any word that appears in the ELA assessment passages. This is not considered an accommodation and can be done with all or any students. The teacher should use professional discretion regarding the number of times a student may request. Students are allowed to use graph paper, blank paper, acceptable manipulatives, and other approved materials such as their grade level math resource. For math and science, manipulatives that are routinely used in the classroom can be used during test administration. The manipulatives must be chosen by the student. The teacher may neither suggest a particular manipulative nor insist that a manipulative be used. If you have a question about whether a particular manipulative is allowed, please email me the question and I will contact KSDE to acquire an answer. Online tools are available to all students as they take assessments. And calculator usage information is on page 24 and 25 in the examiner's manual. For science, the calculator needed for the science assessment is available in the KITE student portal toolbox. When students choose to use a handheld calculator, the memory must be cleared both before and after each testing session. Search online for specific instructions regarding how to clear the memory for the different types of calculators students will use in your classroom. For math, both test sessions will begin with the calculator inactive section. During section 1, students should not have a handheld calculator and the online calculator tool will not be available in the KITE student portal. During section 2, students may use a handheld calculator and the online calculator tool will be available in the KITE student portal. Calculators are not available for students in grades 3, 4, and 5. In grades 6, 7, and 8, they have access to a basic 4-function calculator and a scientific calculator. Students in grade 10 have access to a basic 4-function calculator and a graphing calculator. Beyond using online calculators available in the KITE portal, students are also permitted to use their own calculators on parts of the test where the calculator tool is available. Students may use only approved handheld calculators. Beyond using online calculators available in the KITE student portal, students are also permitted to use their own calculators on parts of the test where the calculator tool is available. Students may use only approved handheld calculators. Use of the calculator app or website on a phone and or other device is not permitted. If students choose to use a handheld calculator, the memory must be cleared, once again, just as a reminder, and after each testing session. At the break between the calculator inactive and calculator active sections, students may get out a handheld calculator. You may want to have students raise their hand when they complete the calculator inactive section so that you know who is permitted to use a calculator. The calculator inactive section has 10 or fewer items, so you will be able to tell which section the student is working on by looking at the progress bar across the top of the screen. Math resource sheets can be found at this link. An online resource sheet with formulas and conversions will be available as tools in the KITE student portal during session 1 of this summative assessment for 4th through 10th graders. A printed copy of the resource sheet may also be used for corresponding grade levels during session 1 of this summative assessment. They cannot be used during session 2. They're also allowed the manipulatives that are in this particular link or document, which is on page 26 in the manual. Moving on to ethical issues. Before testing, teachers, test administrators must read sections 3 through 6 of the examiner's manual prior to test administration and follow the guidelines and instructions during administration. Remove or cover all bulletin board displays, fact tables, charts, and diagrams, and other instructional materials that may give assistance or advantage during testing. Have appropriate manipulatives available for math or science. Student use is optional. The teacher will need to bring these to the testing location and will also provide them to staff members testing students in locations, such as a small group or one-on-one. Do not use actual or altered test questions for practice or instruction. Teachers are not allowed to teach or review the content assessed indicators on the same day the content assessment is being administered. Once testing has started, all reviewing should cease. Prior to taking any assessment, encouragement to students can be offered. Help students approach testing in a relaxed and positive manner. Prior to entering the testing environment, it is appropriate to go through test reminders with students. You're also welcome to add to this list. Once you have entered the testing environment, log in, information and scratch paper can be distributed. Scratch paper cannot be graded, and you cannot require that the student show or work and or take notes on the scratch paper. Ethical issues during testing. Eliminate distractions such as bells, phones, and intercom systems. Do not rush the student. Give them as much time as they need to complete each section of an assessment. Actively monitor the testing session. Moving around the room encourages students to focus on their own work. Do not coach or cue students in any way during testing administration. This includes gestures and or facial expressions. Do not respond to questions during testing that would help the student to understand the question, aid them in responding to an item, or advise or encourage them to edit, redo, or change a response. Do not ask students how they got an answer. Do not do anything that would let the student know whether an answer is correct or not. Students may use blank paper to show and check work. This must be collected and destroyed upon completion of the entire test. When students are finished with testing, the proctor should verify the in-review screen upon completion of the test to see that all questions have been answered before a student exits the test. The proctor may not go back and review each question individually with the student. After testing, make every attempt to test students that were absent during the scheduled testing window. There is a reserved makeup at the very last week of testing, so you shouldn't have any problem getting this accomplished. Reactivation information. To have a student reacted, the following information must be provided to the teacher, and this information will be entered. Once entered, this teacher proctor must let the building test coordinator know that a student needs to be reactivated. He or she will then do so in Kite. Again, as a reminder, there is a reactivation tab in the Google Sheet for each building. Additional reactivation information. If 90 minutes have passed since a child was logged in and they have not completed a part or a session, it does not have to be reactivated any longer. They can log back in and continue taking the test. As a reminder, if they're taking or finishing that test the next day, they do need to enter a new daily access code. If the student shut down the test without having an adult check to see if the student actually completed the session, the student must be present when the test session is reactivated. This must also be recorded in the reactivation log. If the student appears to be answering randomly or isn't showing any effort at the ending of the test session, immediately stop the test for that student. Contact the building test coordinator about the student's test session. Once information has been entered into the reactivation log, the session may be reactivated and the student allowed to complete the assessment. If all test parts are completed and the teacher wants to reactivate, this must be approved by me, at the district test coordinator. The test coordinator may not reactivate a student test part. The only exception to this rule is for students who have not answered all questions contained within a test part as noted in the Kite portal monitor status. A little bit about test security. Except where explicitly allowed as described in the manual, electronic materials used during testing may not be printed or created. Do not store or save on computers or personal storage devices any test items. Test items may not be shared via email or other file sharing program or be reproduced by any means. Do not take pictures of assessment information with a camera or screenshots. Do not review test or analyze test items before, during, or after assessments are administered. Do not discuss any specific test items with students or colleagues before, during, or after administration. And do not construct answer keys so that the test could be scored locally. Do not write or reproduce test materials. Test materials may not be copied, reproduced, or paraphrased. Storage of test materials between, before, and or after testing. Check out and or distribute test materials immediately before the testing session, collect them immediately following the testing session, and return them to the building test coordinator. Copies of the assessments will be secured and locked in the test coordinator's office. This would just be for paper, pencil, and Braille. Test coordinator must keep the following documents in their office: paper, pencil, and Braille assessment forms, test type accommodation schedule, reactivation logs. This is all in the electronic Google Sheet. Copies of IEP pages with other required documentation for the text, speech, or accommodation if applicable. Report any breach of security, loss of materials, failure to account for materials, or any other deviation to your testing coordinator, who will report it to the district test coordinator, who will then report to KSDE. Tremendous effort goes into the review of the state assessment items, but occasionally there is an error, typo which gets by. Both KSDE and CETE want to be informed of these issues for review and follow-up. If an error is verified, it will be corrected, and if necessary, student scores will be adjusted. However, due to test security issues, we expect administrators and teachers to abide by the test security and administration guidelines in the examiner's manual. Therefore, if a student questions the correctness of an item, follow the procedures below. First, to the student, repeat the information from the directions. Teacher, print directions or kite directions. Choose the answer that you think is best. There's one correct or best answer to each question. Carefully read the question and work the problem. Second, collect the following information and forward the information to your building test coordinator, who will then forward it to the district test coordinator. State ID number to aid in test identification. Do not share name, building, or district info. Content area and or grade of test, section or sessions, part and question number. Please do not forward the item stem, any answer choices or narrative descriptions of the item via email. These are live secure test items. Do not take pictures of the item and send. However, it is helpful to know what the issue is. No right answer, multiple correct answers, A and C are both correct. A word is misspelled, or the sentence is grammatically incorrect. Those are just good examples. When it comes to a problem with reading passages, when possible, please provide the issue and the paragraph number and the sentence number within the paragraph. For example, 12 paragraph starts with the dog, third sentence, the cat's name, issue, the name of the cat is misspelled. Ticket login procedure. Students will use the same username and password for all assessments, interims, and summatives. The login tickets will be printed and distributed by the building test coordinator. Teachers can also print these tickets when interims are being administered. For summative assessment, students will also be given a common daily access code. Building test coordinator will retrieve the daily access code for each test from the KITE educator portal. Building test coordinators will enter that daily access code into the Google Sheet under the Daily Access Code tab. The test proctor will then provide the access code to the students so they can log in to a specific test session. The daily access code will expire at 5 p.m. every day. However, if a student does not finish or is unable to take the testing on a certain day, the next day's access code will enable access to where the student needs to test. Building testing schedules. Specific information about the assessment schedule for your building is located in the Google Sheet under the Master Schedule tab. Building test coordinators will enter building testing schedule information into the Google Sheet. The deadline is just before your school begins testing. If changes are made with the schedules must be updated in this Google Sheet. After watching this training video and reading sections 3 through 6 of the examiner's manual, please follow the directions below. Licensed staff, you're going to open the signing train-off form. This is in your email as well. Type in your first and last name, school name, and date that you completed the training. And then if you have any questions about ethics administration or test security, please type that information into the right side of that form. Classified staff, a sign-off sheet will be available in the office of your building test coordinator. Please sign this form by writing your name, providing your signature and the date. If you have any questions, again, about ethics administration or test security, please email me with your questions. By signing this form, you're agreeing to abide by all policies, procedures, and regulations set out by the KSDE with testing and the training information shared by your district director. Additional information. Teachers, the link to this training slideshow is available in your Google Sheet as well and is located under the Assessment Resources tab. It was also emailed to all teachers and paraeducators. As a reminder, when you pull up the slideshow in the email that I sent you, which is also in the Google Sheet, all of the links in blue are live. And then there will also be a training video link, which is in this slideshow, as well as in the email that I have sent out to everyone. Thanks, everyone.